Hey everyone, welcome to week 11, day 1. For today, we're going to start with our new theme, which is going to be inside outside and how we define and come to terms with understanding our inside life. It's not going to be just about place. We can redefine it, in as many ways as we can, and we'll see how we do this week. So we're super glad to be your company. We're super happy to be by your side. So thank you. Okay, let's get started. Before anything, we just wanted to send everyone our best wishes and to hope that every single person out there is okay, your families are okay, all your loved ones are okay, all your partners are okay. This is a tough time, but by keeping each other company, I think we can actually go past this. And hopefully, by painting, we take our minds off of what's going on in the world and we can remind ourselves of how beautiful still nature is. So, for this week, we are trying to understand how we can interpret the ideas of inside and outside. It seems like a super, super simple subject, but one that is clearly being constantly redefined, put to test nowadays. So I thought it'd be interesting. And for the first painting, I wanted to do sort of like an oversized Dani head. And it has some distortion in it, but I'm happy with how this portrait is actually confronting the viewer. So the way I thought we could start identifying ideas of interior and exterior would be through light. And in this one, it's kind of simple. It's about the coolness of our home, of our apartment, and how Dani is actually breaking that threshold, which is that window, actually. And she's stepping into light, and light meaning this external world, which is kind of weird. We always associate the warmness of that light with comfort. It's always like, oh, you got to get some sun. If you're feeling sick, you have to go to the beach, just get some vitamin D from the sun. And it's kind of weird how that idea of outside, of warmness, of sunlight is becoming just strangely threatening. The idea of the outer world just becoming a little threatening. So I thought it was interesting. It was kind of weird, and it was an opportunity to reflect upon how that warmness can now feel so far from the way we understood it just even like 2 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and how the nature of our lives just redefines these ideas, these concepts constantly. So I thought I would do this big portrait of Dani, and I grabbed some of my bigger brushes. I do think I have bigger brushes. They're probably like house painting brushes, but I did use a couple of these flat brushes just to lay color down. And that's precisely one of the things that I realized I should do initially. Just think about not this as a portrait, but as color, as really, really big masses of color, and how I wanted to differentiate the cooler mass up top from the warmer mass that was, her nose, upper lip, and lower lip and chin. And I told myself, just hold on to those brushes for as long as you can. This is always a great exercise. It doesn't mean that painting with a big brush is always the best idea. If that was true, then all those tiny little Fortuny paintings, Mariano Fortuny paintings, or Giovanni Boldini paintings, they wouldn't exist if we thought about just big, big brushes. But the idea behind using a big brush is that it will never let you just go down a path where if you start painting those smaller forms in an untimely fashion, you go for them when you're not supposed to, then you forget your bigger idea, your idea that has to do with the wholeness of the picture. And usually the wholeness of the picture speaks about your concept. It speaks about your intent. So whenever you're attracted to the smaller parts and you lose your way through those little branches, then you are actually risking sacrificing the bigger idea that you had. And a technical way in which you can try and avoid those things is just to grab a bigger brush. So that's why you're always going to hear instructors and painters say, this became a little too finicky. It seems like you are working on tiny little planes when you should be getting a bigger sense of light. And the first thing people will do, this is what my teachers did with me, and this is what I do with the people that attend my workshops and what I've done with my students, is that whenever an idea sort of got derailed, you just grab a bigger brush and you just almost like blunt it into the right path again. You just force it into a right path again. And that's something that's beautiful about painting and that I've always adored, is that the fact that a lot of times when people think that there is no way out of the painting that they're doing, that it's a crappy painting and you got lost, and the only thing you can do is scrape it, just scrape the whole painting down. And the truth is, I've always felt that, yeah, you can scrape a painting and you can scrape some areas, particularly if there's a ton of paint in those areas, that's going to kind of inhibit putting more paint down. But usually, you can always grab a painting and say, no, let me reestablish the most important aspects of this painting with bigger brush marks, with a bigger notion of light and shadow. Let me see if all my hues just got super cluttered, and let me see if I can find clarity again with just establishing hierarchy in my hues. Let me see if I can gray everything down and give this one area a bit of saturation. It's always possible to take a painting that many times you think defeated you. It's always possible to bring it back, to sort of resurrect it. And again, we use our tools to do that. I especially like flats because I can actually speak about planes, the description of planes with them, and I could do it very, very clearly. So that's why I grabbed those. And I felt, okay, this is giving me like a really, really big sense of what the painting is going to look like. And I can actually hold on to those bigger planes and to those big marks because I'm using these big brushes. So recommendation for everyone, yes, using small brushes is completely fine. And if you love to render, chances are that you are going to have to use beautiful, small, round, very soft brushes. But it's actually pretty cool if you challenge yourself to say, okay, I'm going to use a big brush. And that's actually, we've been thinking with Dani, it would be a cool theme for a week where we just use one brush to do the whole painting. And if I had to use one brush, I would probably use just a big flat brush. I think that's a very, very cool way to actually understand the possibilities of your tools. So I did that, and once I had it established, once I saw that the bigger notion of my painting was there, then I started to break my bigger planes into smaller planes. And I have always, you've heard it before, but I'll say it until I die. That nose, Dani's nose, is actually absolutely fascinating to me. And I love to get lost in all these little breaks and planes. And I love to associate those planes, the way her nose turns in space, with color, with actually very specific mixes of color. And I love to change my hues and try to respect my my value. The highlight of the nose, I had actually kept intact the linen, the white linen that was underneath, because it was working really, really well. But I noticed that I needed some softer transitions in some areas. So I had to actually mix like a super, super light saturated color to try and match the brightness that I would get from the raw linen. This oversized head reminded me of a story. I remember, and this is true story. Me and my roommate, which is an amazing guy. So shout out to Lou, wherever you are out there. Lou and I actually took a workshop, a portrait workshop, with this super, super cool portrait painter. And, he's above me saying that his class was cool or me saying that we had a great experience or a bad experience. We took his workshop at the League, Ronald Scher. He's an amazing painter, so let's be clear about that. And it was full. It was probably over 30 people, maybe. It was a full class. And, he didn't get to us until maybe the fourth week. So it was one day a week, and maybe until the fourth week, he actually eventually got to us. And me in particular, I was doing a bigger than life head, not too big. It was just like slightly larger than life portrait of this model. And I was super excited because I was like, okay, he's a hell of a portrait painter. Let me see what he can tell me. And he only told me one thing. He just said, just to say it, this was 4 weeks into the workshop. He finally came to me and he just said, oh, never do your portraits bigger than life. And then he kept walking. And I was like, what? What was that? I probably had paid, I don't know if Lou remembers. I think we paid maybe $400 for that. It was something like that, I think. I think it made me laugh. It made me smile because we had such high expectation. And then I just got one comment that was totally weird. If you think about it, this was almost negating Chuck Close, for example, which is an amazing portrait painter. And his portraits are obviously larger than life. So there is nothing inherently wrong about painting a portrait larger than life. I can understand if you're working on site size and you can't work larger than life. You can actually only can go as big as, whatever the size of your model is. But, this was a painting. This wasn't trying to be like a formal portrait. This was just a painting. And I wish he could have seen qualities that I was trying to get to and speak about those. But no, he said that. And it was very strange. And I always remember that whenever I see a painting that's larger than life. And I remember particularly when I saw and this was years ago, this is many, many years ago, when we went with just people from school, we went to Mary Boone's and we saw, was it Mary Boone's? I forget now. It was probably Gagosian. Maybe it was Gagosian, not Mary Boone. I don't remember at the time which gallery it was. It was either one of those. And we saw Jenny Savile's show, and it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And talk about oversized. Oh my God. Oh my God. If you're anything like me, I still, when I see large paintings, I am impressed, in terms of the size, in terms of just them being colossal. But the painter side of me still goes like, oh my God, how much paint is in there? I still, when I buy paint, I go like, ugh, that was way too expensive for a color. Or maybe I get super excited whenever I go to an art store until I see the prices. And it's like in my mind, I've bought 100 things. And then when I go to the register, I probably have like one color and like 3 brushes. And that's like $100. But the reality is that I'm very, very aware of the price of things still. And whenever I see paintings that are super large, I'm always like, I don't even have the money. I don't even have the money to paint this. I don't even have the money to buy the paint in order to paint this, which is crazy. And I still have that feeling. And I remember that feeling when I first saw the Jenny Savile show. There's one particular double portrait that is just incredible. And it has the most gorgeous gestural, not even brushstrokes, because I don't even know what she was using to put paint down. But it was amazing. But all I could see at that moment, I remember, was just like, oh my God, how much paint is in there? And to be honest, like when I see what Jenny is doing, Jenny, like I know her, right? When I see what she's doing nowadays, it's kind of like more thin down paint. I've seen how she paints now, and she pre-mixes like a ton, I mean hundreds of colors, and they're very thin down. They sure do look very kind of liquidy. And I don't know, I miss those paintings that she did maybe, I don't know, 20 years back when she was just caking that paint on. It was just a ton of paint, and I absolutely loved that. So this, speaking about oversized, in this particular painting I was doing today, yeah, the eyes are a little oversized, which is why people will tell you don't do oversized heads, because you are going to lose a little bit of your proportion. You're going to sacrifice a little bit of that. I don't care about that anymore. I mean, that's kind of insane. That's kind of ridiculous. You can do a total disproportioned head and still be incredible and amazing. So I think making it slightly larger just gives you a sense of this portrait confronting you as a viewer, and how you become, yes, the witness to that exterior world, I think. But that's also not your nature, because what is being reflected in her eyes is actually this blue sky, and that's why I kind of saturated that blue in her eyes, so that would be a little more evident. And I thought it was very nice. So it's confronting you as a viewer. Also, in many ways, she's confronting nature, the outside world. And I tried to get this look where she is almost embracing that outside world, but still she's a little hesitant because, as we all know, like I said in the beginning, the notion of outside is becoming very strange to us, I feel. And I hope when all of this is over, we can go back and understand nature as this place that actually is here so that we can be a part of it, so that we can enjoy our stay here and that we can understand it as our home and not feel threatened by it. So, this was our first effort. Join us tomorrow for our second day in which is going to be our ongoing interior, exterior, inside, outside themed week. So thank you guys for hanging out. Again, I hope you guys are safe. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and your family. Both Dani and I thank you for letting us be part of your stay at home, and we love to be your company, even from afar. So we are going through exactly the same thing that you are going through. This has connected us in a very tragic way, but it has connected us in a way that I could have never, ever imagined in my life. So that is pretty fascinating and amazing, even among all the realness and rawness of everything that's going on. So let's hold on to those nice things. Let's accept what's going on because we have no way of changing what nature intends to do. We're just here along for the ride, but we can actually still find beauty in the moments that we are living right now. So thank you guys once again. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.